In a few recent videos, we've talked a lot about the different species the Jedi and Sith avoided recruiting for various reasons. If you watched those videos, you might have noticed a pattern. We didn't really mention any species that physically couldn't be Jedi or Sith, only species that, on average, weren't cut out for the job. But were there any species physically incapable of being Jedi or Sith? At what point was a species just not cut out for Force use? The answer may surprise you, and we'll be discussing it in depth today.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
The short answer to our title question is simple: no. The Force flowed through all life forms, and every species had individuals who were sensitive to it. If you were Force sensitive, it didn't matter if you were human, Twi'lek, or an actual tree. You could become a Jedi, and if you could become a Jedi, you could become a Sith. The selectiveness the Jedi and Sith displayed in their recruiting was purely a matter of practicality and risk, not a matter of physical capability. Don't believe us? Let's look at a few examples of some truly strange Jedi and Sith. Jedi Master Ooroo lived around 5,000 years before the Clone Wars, and in his day, he was one of the Jedi Order's foremost teachers, with his long list of apprentices including the renowned future Jedi Master Odan. He was also a Silegian, an unusual species that could best be described as a flying brain with tentacles. He exclusively breathed cyanogen gas, a compound that was highly toxic to most species. As a result, he spent virtually all of his time as a Jedi in a floating crystal fish tank. Despite his oddities, Ooroo was an exemplary Jedi, skilled in many Force techniques. Even though he was confined to his tank, he was still extremely adept with the lightsaber, which he wielded telekinetically. He preferred to avoid drawing his blade, however, instead choosing to focus on the Force and the Force alone. He became a great Jedi and ultimately gave his life to save the planet Kirek during the Great Hyperspace War by shattering his tank and unleashing his cyanogen gas on a bunch of Massassi warriors. Now, if you thought there were species that couldn't be Jedi or Sith, we're betting at least one of the species you were thinking of was the Hutts. But there was, in fact, a Hutt Jedi, though records indicate that he was the only one. Beldorian the Hutt became a Jedi Knight in around 400 BBY and was regularly dispatched on high-risk missions, as he was quite skilled and incredibly powerful in combat. But there was only one mission from which he never returned, a mission to the planet of Nam Chorios, a known nexus of the dark side. While on Nam Chorios, Beldorian succumbed to the lure of the dark side. While he never became a Sith, he remained a dark Jedi for centuries after his fall, setting himself up as the dictator of Nam Chorios. While he ruled over that dark world like most Hutts ruled their systems, he surprisingly did a lot of his own dirty work, as he was strong in the Force and skilled with the lightsaber. His power was such that he went unchallenged for 400 years before he was finally slain by Leia Organa in 13 ABY. Still not convinced that anyone could have been a Jedi? Another of the Order's most revered masters was Omo Buri, a Wol Cabochite. The master of famed Jedi counselor Saesee Tiin, Omo Buri was an even more unusual species than Master Ooroo. The Wol Cabochites were essentially slugs with long tongues. They didn't need to breathe, could only grab things with their tongues, and couldn't even speak in a way that was readily intelligible to most beings. They communicated by producing magnetic vibrations, which they used to sing to each other in an incredibly complex language. Wol Cabochites, despite their unusual appearances, were brilliant philosophers, even if they were hard to understand. You might not think a member of this species would make a good Jedi, but you'd be wrong. Master Buri actually sat on the Jedi Council for a time and was responsible for negotiating several crucial peace treaties. As we alluded to earlier, he also trained Saesee Tiin, who, as a natural telepath who was always struggling to not read the thoughts of others, found the difficulty he had communicating with his thoroughly alien master refreshing. Without Master Buri's help, Tiin may never have become the great Jedi Master he became. Here's an even stranger Jedi Master for you to consider, Master Argon. We're at a loss for words when it comes to describing this guy. He was a green blob with eyes that constantly radiated glowing fumes. But that description doesn't really do justice to how utterly, well, weird he was. We don't even know his species since he lived around the time of the Republic's founding, and there were no other records of any being like him in the millennia since. Master Argon didn't even look like a living thing, and yet he was one of the foremost Jedi of his time, as skilled in the Force as any other master. As with Ooroo and Omo Buri, Master Argon trained a number of apprentices to knighthood, though we only know the name of the one who fell to the dark side. A Jedi consular, Master Argon likely played an important part of the expansion of the early Republic, which was only a few decades old in his time. He was also one of the Jedi Order's leading historians, and was important enough that his image was made into a gatekeeper for the Great Holocron, the single most important repository of the Jedi Order's knowledge. His programs in the Great Holocron included lectures on the Order's founding and the nature of the dark side. Now, we've talked about the Jedi a lot in this video, but what about the Sith? Well, truth be told, we have far fewer species to go off when it comes to picking out Sith, as many Sith orders were speciest and favored Sith purebloods or humans. But we do have an example of a highly unusual Sith Lord that you wouldn't expect to be up to the task. That Sith was Simus, one of the lords of the original Sith Empire. He was a Sith pureblood, or part of one rather. In his early days, he had been like any other Sith Lord, but after challenging Dark Lord Master Argon to a duel, he ended up with his head separated from his body. Nonetheless, Simus clung to life, using the dark side to keep his severed head alive for over a century. As a disembodied head in a jar, Simus continued to serve as a Sith Lord on the Empire's ruling council. He became one of the council's most highly esteemed members, ruling over his swath of the Empire well and serving as Master Argon's most trusted advisor. He was also notorious as a powerful Sith sorcerer, as was shown by his ability to keep his severed head alive for so long. He was ultimately killed in cold blood by Naga Sadow in a false flag attack, which Sadow used to incite the other Sith Lords to join him in the Great Hyperspace War. We've saved our best example for last. What if we were to tell you that a bunch of living rocks ended up becoming a Jedi? The rocks in question were shards, members of a silicon-based species of living crystals. They were immobile and communicated telepathically, but they had intelligence nonetheless, and a few of them were even force sensitive. When Jedi Master Argon discovered this, he painstakingly installed the force-sensitive shards into droid bodies, allowing them to move and communicate like humanoids. He then trained them in the ways of the Jedi, dubbing them the Iron Knights. The Jedi Council was horrified that Argon had trained rocks in the Jedi ways, so they actually ended up kicking him and the Iron Knights out of the Order. But the Iron Knights continued to practice the Jedi ways anyway. Using lightsabers and force abilities, they acted like any other Jedi Knight would. One even fought in the Battle of Dagobah against the CIS during the Clone Wars. The Iron Knights actually ended up surviving the Jedi Purge, hiding out on the planet Dween, and when Luke Skywalker formed the new Jedi Order, he allowed them to join and become full Jedi Knights at last. So, we think we've proved rather conclusively that any being, no matter how strange, could become a Jedi or Sith. But what do you think? Did you know about any of the characters we talked about today? Which one was your favorite? Let us know your thoughts and more in the comment section below. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.